match finished Manchester City 3, West Ham 1. Quite a hard game to review, so I'm sort of not going to bother, really. Manchester City worthy champions, well done. They scored after 1 minute. West Ham made it close. Not in terms of a contest, but scoreline. It was 2-1 at one point. Brilliant goal by Mohammed Kudus. It was a bicycle. Why did they call it a bicycle kick? I don't know. It was an overhead kick. Really good. Brilliant. Would have been a highlight of the season had it come earlier on in the season, a game that meant something. But not to diminish the quality of the finish. Kudus was, by a million miles, West Ham's best player. But realistically, City were never threatened. And it was West Ham. West Ham had two shots of note, really. And it was never a contest. And I think if Arsenal fans ever wanted to know why in the build-up to the game, West Ham fans were sort of laughing that we were never going to beat Manchester City, that's why. That's why. What happened was exactly what we thought would happen, in as much as we don't put up a fight. There was the last night was the unified heavyweight boxing title, wasn't it? You know, Usyk against the Gypsy King, and that was a contest. It was, you know, both fighters going at it. This was not a contest at all, and so I think I would use this as an example, not just as to why Arsenal should never have got their hopes up for this particular game, but also as an answer to many who sort of criticise West Ham fans for wanting to get David Moyes to leave the club, because that's basically how we play. Not just how we play against Man City, that's how we play quite a lot. And realistically, West Ham can thank their lucky stars that we didn't concede an awful lot more. Let's be fair, Erling Haaland did not have his shooting boots on today. He really didn't. I counted 4 really good chances where he should have scored, and I thought his finishing was lacking. One of them was a good block by Zuma, but in the main, his finishing was well off. Too many West Ham players just did not contest the game at all. There was a point in the first half, between maybe the 10th and 15th minute, you saw Mikel Antonio turn and talk to the bench. And it looked like he was saying, "What shall I do?" And it was quite indicative, actually, of everything. It was very, very symbolic, actually. What shall I do? And I guess the answer possibly must have been nothing, because what happened was nothing. I'm not cross about the result. Far from it. Far from it at all. I'm not cross. It is more, if anything, it's given me confirmation of what I thought. Maybe a confirmation bias, but a confirmation of what I thought, which is, we don't really need to see any more of this at all. It didn't feel like we were in a contest. It didn't feel like we were trying. I think if anybody was going to look at that game as a neutral, they might say, well, hold on, that's Man City. They're brilliant. You had nothing left to play for. So it was very much an end-of-season game. And I guess if you were just to view it through that isolation, you would probably say, yes, that's true. But it's not. Again, that's how we play. We play like that a lot, and it's not against Manchester City, and it's not an isolated game. And I don't know. It was really weird to watch the season sort of fade out. Really, you know, we very much faded away. Man City were excellent. I don't want to take anything away from Man City, by the way, but they didn't need to be excellent, and they certainly weren't at their best. They didn't need to be excellent to beat us. There was a point where they were passing the ball around so well, that actually the referee had to be really quick on his toes to keep out the way. Otherwise, they were passing it around so much it was going to hit the referee's leg. So I thought, he had to really be quite nimble and show a lot of dexterity, but just never ever in doubt. And it's just, I've got to be honest with you, over the course of the season, I'm just fed up of watching it. I really, really am. I'm fed up of watching it. David Moyes has alluded to it in his comments in the last couple of days. He's pretty much said, I'm not adventurous. But he did say it. He said, I'm not adventurous. I am cautious. Yeah, and it's true. It's true. And unfortunately, his record at the Etihad is shocking. His record against Guardiola's are pretty poor. But David Moyes' career record over the course of his whole career going away against top 6 is horrendous. We were never going to win that today. And I couldn't help but watch it. And you do naturally sort of summarise and analyse. David Moyes has been doing it himself. There's been a lot of reflection this week of David Moyes looking back and trying to reflect back at his time at West Ham and how he does things. That's why he was saying that stuff about him being cautious. And I took a look at it, and I thought today, and I looked at the team today, and thought, look, David Moyes has set them up. There was a lot of talk in the build-up to this game about him switching formations, which he did, to try and get the best out of the players and nullify City. Well, he did switch formation, and it didn't work. It doesn't work even if he'd have done a different formation. It looked the same, really, didn't it? It really did look much the same. And I thought, what does David Moyes want? Bearing in mind, he's admitted he's cautious, and he is a little bit defensive. Even if he went and got another job, I still think that's as good as it gets. At West Ham is as good as it gets for David Moyes. I've said it a few times. I said it about Jesse Lingard. I said his stint at West Ham. I said, look, what about this is as good as it gets for Jesse Lingard. This is the pinnacle. And I think there's a natural sort of... People talk about be careful what you wish for just for West Ham. As if West Ham can't do any better than Moyes. But maybe Moyes can't do any better than West Ham either. I said about Lingard. I actually said it about Dimitri Payet as well. What about if this is it? This is the pinnacle, the very top part of Payet's career. I don't know enough about his early career, but I think West Ham time might have been the pinnacle of his career, you know? Not saying he didn't have good moments afterwards, but anyway, I just think reflecting on it as David Moyes, at what point is he going to rock up at a football club where he can play defensive football, spend as much money on defence as he has, over 80 million on centre-backs alone, and then what he wants to do, defend, soak up on, and then on the counter-attack, really try and hit opposition teams on the break with a surprise and with a counter-attack. And to do that, you're going to need really good counter-attacking players. At what point is David Moyes going to have a better selection of attacking players than Kudus, than Paqueta, Antonio and Bowen? It's highly unlikely that he's going to get that job. So I just found it a little bit of a weird one to go out on a whimper like we did. There was one point I felt that really highlighted the what's wrong with David Moyes' tactics. And it's sitting deep on what has become called a low block in the last 2 or 3 years. People call it a low block. It was Rodri's goal. And the ball sort of came in from wide and the ball was cleared out. James Ward-Prowse tried to get across to block it, but he was too far away. There was no one near Rodri. And whilst these names keep changing, so it's the low block now. We used to call it, as whatever, it became parking the bus. People say 2 banks of 4, didn't they? 2 banks of 4. West Ham didn't have 2 banks of 4, or whatever, a bank of 5 and a bank of 4, or whatever you want to call it. Very much the idea is that you have one defensive line and then another line right in front of it. West Ham didn't. Everyone was back. It was almost like a line of 10. So there was no one there. There was no one there to deal with Rodri when he got the ball. It was shambolic. It reminded me, I've said it before, of the old Harry Enfield sketch. And it's fine. I'm not even remotely annoyed about it. It's just the way things have turned out at West Ham. And it was the rubber stamp. It was the validation. It was the final thing, wasn't it? That's it. That's it. That's as good as it gets. Oh, well, probably Prague was as good as it gets for a David Moyes team. I really do think so. And I did. I looked at it. I thought, I have no desire, no ill feeling, gratitude, in actual fact, for winning the trophy in Prague. No ill feeling, far from it. Nothing nasty to say about Moyes at all. But just from my own point of view, that's why I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to see his next version and say, I don't want to see Moyes 3.0. He's Moyes West Ham 3.0. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it at all. Will we bring any more players in? Yeah, I guess we would. But I still don't. I'm not confident that he can organise a defence. I'm not even sure necessarily that the game has changed that much. I think the game does go through fashions and does go through changes. I just don't think I think the problem isn't that the game's changed loads. It's that David Moyes doesn't overly change very much. And I looked at how we were getting. I mean, Areola was under a lot of pressure just from the quality of deliveries from Man City's corners today, and And I had a thought for Paul Nevin, as we look bad on set pieces, bad, you know. We have done for quite all season, actually. We've relied on good deliveries ourselves from maybe Ward Prowse or Jarrod Bowen. But ultimately, it doesn't look like there's been a massive tactic. There's been no innovation, has there? Not just when we're taking them, nor when we're defending them. We don't look particularly well organised. From open play and from set pieces. And when you're going to do that through both, then you are probably going to concede the number of goals that we have this season, which is what would it end up in 74. I mean, the record was West Ham's worst, but I think it was 68 or 69, so 74. We'd smashed it. Premier League record for most goals conceded for West Ham. But to lose your set piece coach and not replace him and things like that in a way, I just think the way Warburton left as well. There are so many signs, without having to be mean about David Moyes, there are so many signs which indicate actually it was and is time for a change. It was weird even listening to the commentary, listening to what Gary Neville said. You know, perhaps it could have been announced better by West Ham. And don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting West Ham did a good job with the whole David Moyes thing, but David Moyes did say himself in February that he probably wasn't going to sign a new deal. Or he'd have a think about it, but there was a deal on the table, wasn't going to sign it. He very much, by David, I'm not sure I believe the story totally, but by David Moyes' own narrative, he was the one in the driving seat. He was going to decide whether he signed a new contract or not. So it was odds that everybody else they're all very able and very willing to trot out whatever David Moyes says when it suits them. But even if David Moyes is the one saying it's my decision, they don't want to trot out that line particularly. It's weird. It's weird how they take some of his information and run with it and then completely ignore other parts of it as well. I don't know. I don't know what happened. There you go. I've got my T-shirt on. Champions of Europe. You could hear the crowd singing it as well. Weird end to the season, right? Weird end to the season. I'm glad it's done. I've had enough. I am really, really looking forward to what comes next. Time for a fresh page in that sense. Listen, let me just say, I was a little bit surprised with all the comments that we got in the build-up show. So yeah, listen, thanks for watching all season. I really do appreciate it. Thanks so much. We're going to be back all the time. I'm going to be back tomorrow. We're going to be doing uploading content constantly throughout the summer, as we always do. And there's going to be a lot more to discuss. I do feel, that's why I didn't particularly want to review the game as such, because I feel it just feels weird doing it. It feels stale doing it, actually, to try and do it with any sort of level of detail or anything like that. So, yeah, well done, Manchester City. I'll be back tomorrow. I won't be talking about this nonsense anymore. I may be talking about one player in particular, though, who played today. One player in particular who probably needed to impress Manchester City to get a transfer to Manchester City and possibly didn't do too well. I'm sure you know exactly who I'm talking about.